who is your first team, and how confident are you heading into next season?
My first team are the Michigan Wolverines, which I think pulled off the biggest surprise of bowl season, beating Alabama. And not only the way they beat Alabama, but just that they had a very depleted team. They were 7-5 this year. They actually leapfrogged their way into the ReliaQuest Bowl because of the matchup. Because ReliaQuest is like, we can get Bama and Michigan, we're taking it, and lost a ton of guys to the NFL, whether it's Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Colston Loveland. I mean, some true top first, second round guys sat out. Khalil Millings, running back, and yet they were able to get that big win against with a great defensive effort. A lot of them were second teamers all year. So my confidence level in Michigan going into next year is really high. I'm going to put them at 4 just because I think they have a few other spots I want to see them get better at, but Jordan Marshall's performance was fantastic. 100 yards against Alabama, against a legit Alabama team. I love what they've done in the portal thus far. I know they got still a little ways to go, but pairing Mikey Keene with Bryce Underwood coming in, to me, is the perfect combination of what makes Michigan a potentially elite team again this year. And their schedule is bullish, but it's not over the top. I mean, they play at Oklahoma in week 2, which, I mean, is kind of an even matchup after Oklahoma was 6-7 this year. And then week 3, they've got Central Michigan. So I wonder if Connor Stallions will show up for that game. And then they go to Nebraska later on, at Wisconsin at home, at USC, Washington, and Michigan State in a 4-game period. And then the rest of the year is pretty much mild until they play Ohio State at home. So with the players that they have returning, and they're pretty strong in most spots, especially on offense, and then some of the guys in the portal, I'm bullish on the Wolverines. I'm going to give them a 4.
I like a lot of what you mentioned. I like Mikey Keene. I thought he got stuck in kind of a weird situation in Fresno with coaching shifts and all that stuff, and they had lost some weapons as well. My big question for you, Scott, is what do you make of Chip Lindsay? Because I'm not all in, and that to me is the biggest thing. I think that, like, schematically as an offense this year, Michigan had a lot of issues. You know, I think we talked about it in the middle of the season. They wanted to pretend that they were last year's team, and they didn't have anything close to the personnel to be that team. But I do think they had the personnel to be a decent offense. They just had to figure out what they were. What's your confidence level in Chip Lindsay to kind of figure that out?
Chip Lindsay being the offensive coordinator. Previously at North Carolina, Troy head coach. He's been around some weird spots.
I think, I'm not going to put it at a 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 5, but I'm going to put it at, mid 3 to mid to 4, because when you look at Michigan and the issues it had on offense, it starts and ends at quarterback. I mean, Alex Orji, just, great athlete, just not really a good passer. Davis Warren, Jack Tuttle, just guys out there. And they kind of, fought their way through late in the year to be able to put themselves in a position to at least get bowl eligible. And then they ended it with wins against Ohio State and Alabama. I think Chip Lindsay can take what they have. And if he can build an offense around what Bryce Underwood is capable of doing, but mold it with, Mikey Keene is going to be your guy that just kind of leads you, and then splice in some Bryce Underwood, kind of the way I look at it, like what Ohio State did. I'm going way back here, but with Terrell Pryor, and I think it was Beckman who's their quarterback, and they just kind of, until Bryce Underwood could take over.
That's a deep Big Ten pull, Scott. That is way back there.
Man, he went to a national championship game.
Yeah.
Beckman, one of the great guys in college football history. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, I think they're just going to kind of even that out. Their schedule is advantageous for them. I think they've got a chance to really grow, and then bringing in some defensive players. They've got some, they lose maybe the best defensive tackle tandem in the country, Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, and they're bringing in guys who had decent years at Alabama and Clemson, and Damon Payne and Trey Williams. A couple of D-backs from Arkansas. One was really good. TJ Metcalf is younger, or his brother's with him too. And Justice Haynes to kind of go with Marshall next year at running back. I think they can kind of grow. It's going to take time for them to reach what they're capable of. But I think overall, with this schedule and with the players that they have returning, if Chip Lindsay can kind of build that offense around Bryce Underwood being able to do things in a good way, Mikey Keene kind of being able to narrow, to kind of guide the ship per se, that by the time they get into November, this could be a team that's capable of competing for the Big Ten championship.
Dude, Jordan Marshall, that dude impressed the heck out of me in that bowl game. He's a freshman. Yeah. He's running over Alabama. That dude runs hard. Like that Michigan win over Alabama, like one of my takeaways was like, these are some guys who are about to be dudes. And yes, they were missing a bunch of guys who are about to be NFL draft picks, but they've got a lot of guys on that defense who are also going to become NFL draft picks, like in a couple of years from now. That was very evident. And Jordan Marshall, I mean, he carried that offense there for a while. He was all they had. Not only did they beat Alabama, they beat them with Davis Warren getting hurt in the game. The only guy who can throw a forward pass for them. Yeah. And they still did it. So, yeah, Michigan, stock way up. Quite a rebuilding year, huh? You finished with wins over Ohio State and Alabama in what is a down year? Like, oof, look out.